incredibly supportive. And even Shane's mother is wonderfully supportive, which she should be. But I was very surprised there wasn't a moment where she said, do you know what this is going to do to your Rolex deal? I love the fact that even though Shane's mother is supportive, as Shane needs her to be narratively, I was surprised that she didn't even have a moment of conflict about potentially losing all this lucrative sponsorship that is paid for his cottage.
We talked about this very particular thing like a week or so ago about Shane's mother, and I agreed with you when we were speaking. But think about the fact that like all she has done his entire life is give him everything he needed, she thought, right? Like she was managing his career and making sure that he's happy and healthy. And, he even had her name written on his hockey stick. She is a very, very supportive parent in every way possible. And when she realizes that this crucial part of Shane's identity he has kept hidden because she somehow made it impossible for him to come to her, I think that, just getting into the mom psyche of it all, I don't know if at that point it would have been realistic for her to be like, no, 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 what about the brand deals? I think at that moment she realized that she failed in such a crucial way as a mom who thought like she has the best interests of her kid at heart. And here she is failing at the most significant part of his life that he has kept a 10-year relationship. He was literally in love, right? Like that was the only person that was probably the closest to him in a very intimate way. When she realized that she failed in that way, like I think her apology was the most realistic part in that moment. What are your thoughts about that?
You have convinced me. I think you're absolutely right. No, really, it does make sense that it's a moment of realization for her that she has eclipsed looking at her son 360, and she
Yeah.
apologized for it. It makes narrative sense.
There's one thing in that scene that I still think stays true to Yuna's character, which is that she's like, you're going to quit Boston. She's not yet convinced that Ilya and Shane thing is going to work out because, it's like 5 seconds old to her. But she's telling Ilya, what, you're going to quit Boston. You have no sense of loyalty. And I think that kind of hooks her back into her like personality. But I agree. I think it would have been a misstep if she came back and said like, what about the brand deals?
That whole scene after the discovery where they're having dinner and it's, thanks for the pasta. It's just, it's such a beautifully healthy scene. I have absolutely no idea where season 2 could possibly go. Once they're out, is there a story? Like, hi, now we're out and we're going to change hockey. We're going to change the world. Good luck. I hope so. That would be nice. But I actually cannot even imagine what season 2, episode 1 is going to be. I can't wait to see it, but I have absolutely no idea.
We know because we read this follow-up book.
Yeah, but we're going to tell you nothing. We're going to tell you nothing,
nothing,
Alan. Can I ask you a question on what you just said? You said, are they going to change the hockey world? In the narrative arc of this story, does that fit? Would it be narratively cohesive to say, oh, now Shane and Ilya in season 2 are going to now like be some sort of spokespeople for
I don't
the queer
know.
hockey community?
I don't know, because one of the things I did in preparation for this discussion was I Googled who are the gay hockey players, who are the gay football players, who are the gay baseball players, who are the gay rugby players. And I noticed the more aggressively violent the sport, the fewer number of out players there are. There really is still a problem with being masculine and gay. Going way back to the very beginning of our conversation, another autobiographical nugget. I grew up in a hockey family, mother, father, and 2 sisters, all of whom loved hockey. I was the only boy child and the only gay one in the family. And my father, maybe in an attempt to include me in something masculine, often took me to hockey games at Madison Square Garden so we could see the New York Rangers. My only interest in the game was seeing the players come out on the ice because I wanted to see what they looked like. I spent most of the game running up and down the aisles talking to people about who was their favorite player. And my father was, of course, a bit dismayed, I think, that I wasn't like watching the game and cheering on the team.
No, I understand you because I that is also my interest in hockey.
on the other hand, I'm watching the playoffs with like bated breath, actually.
I'm kidding. I actually do weirdly enjoy hockey. But Alan, it's interesting that you mentioned that because when Heated Rivalry first came out, I saw an article that said there's absolutely not a single out player in professional sports right now at this
Mhm.
moment. And like, that's
Mhm.
impossible that they are all straight.
No,
Statistically
they're not
improbable.
all great.
Right.
That is impossible, but it is very possible they don't feel they can come out.
Oh, of course. Right. Alan, if you were, though, create a narrative for season 2, what do you think that would look like?
Gee, that is
I
a
love
good
that.
question, and I wish I had a ready-made answer. Inspired by Scott Hunter, there is an opening for them to come out, but Scott Hunter was not having a sexual relationship with his literal rival.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, sports analysts love rivalries. So, what happens to hockey? What happens to their life when or if Shane and Ilya come out as lovers? What happens to their fans? So, you've asked me to project. Does Ilya move to the Ottawa team? Do they open a charity together? I mean, why not a muffin store in Provincetown, for goodness sake? I don't know. I don't.
What
I
would you
don't
like
know.
to see then? If you had your like ideal narrative.
I would like them to enter a throuple relationship with a retired academic professor.
I think that is the best answer. That is the best thing any of my gay boyfriends have said to me. I wish that for them and you as well. Alan, I think I'd love to end this episode by asking what your favorite scene and or episode and why.
I'm willing to bet that my favorite scene is probably the number one response you get. I'm just
Mm.
guessing. It's Ilya's monologue in Russian on the phone
Mm.
to Shane. It's so beautiful because there's so much communication without Shane understanding a word. And it's Ilya at his most vulnerable, and it's Shane at his most open. It's the Venn diagram of most connection. And I just think it's beautiful.
It's interesting that you say Ilya is the most vulnerable and Shane is the most open because while Ilya is very vulnerable, I think he's covered because he knows Shane doesn't understand what he's saying, right? So like he's
Mhm.
allowed himself to say everything he feels deeply in his mother tongue so he could actually say it all,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way he wants to say it all. But it's also slightly cowardly because he knows Shane won't understand it. And he knows that Shane has been basically begging him to share like how he feels
Mhm.
about his family
Mhm.
and everything. You know, he's like, you could always talk to me, Ilya. I think Shane is just very also intuitive in that moment. And
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, knowing that what Ilya needs and he's giving him what he needs. Well, Alan, thank you so much for joining us today. It was truly a pleasure. I'm so glad we got to have this conversation and you bring so much expertise to this topic and we've really enjoyed having you on. So thank you.